Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. Tony Robbins said, lead a life of your own design on your own terms, not one that others or the environment have scripted for you. Well, on today's episode, we're going to talk about living a life by design with purpose and fulfillment, breaking through barriers, getting unstuck, and more. Our guest was born in Cape Town, South Africa, raised in Australia, lived in New York, and is now based in London. As an architect working in a male-dominated industry, she faced a number of barriers to success, yet managed to overcome them and was able to work on some of the most prestigious projects in the world. She's gone from being stuck and feeling out of place to owning and running several businesses remotely. She's published a book, created a popular travel blog, and is a contributor to publications such as the Huffington Post, the Sydney Morning Herald, and Thrive Global. And on top of all that, she's a coach for powerful women. Please welcome the Motivation Accelerator herself, LRN Resnick. LRN, it's so great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm smiling. I've got this big smile on my face because that was an amazing introduction. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure. And I'm so excited about this conversation. We did have an opportunity to have a conversation a while back, and it left me with so many insightful views on the world and on doing things differently. So I'm really excited to dig deep on some of those areas and share your story and the amazing things that you're doing today. So let's jump right in. I thought that a good place for us to start would be for you to take us back to really where your story begins. And LRN, if you could share with us some of the early experiences that you had that shaped who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I've had a 20-year career, and I started when I was living in Australia. I was educated as an architect. I went into architecture, and, the first few years of being an architect, I looked up to my 4 male bosses, and I saw them kind of running around the office, running after clients, always kind of behind what I thought being the leader looked like. And I thought, I just don't want to be that. Why am I here? This is just not something I aspire to be. Although architecture in itself seems, a glamorous industry. And I think what a lot of people aspire to be, when I have conversations with people, they're like, I always wanted to be an architect. I hear that a lot. But, the course itself, the degree is so hard. It's so long, and then you've really got to be dedicated to it, to really be passionate about it. And as passionate as I was about it, when I saw the people above me act as they did, and I just didn't see myself being there. So I took a slight pivot, and what a lot of people say went to the dark side, and worked as what they call project managers, someone who's looks after the project on a design project. They help coordinate all the pieces, everything from what the client's looking for to what the designers need to do, what the contractors need to do. And it's the one person, like in an orchestra, it's the conductor, making sure everyone's in sync, in harmony. So that's a pretty powerful role to be in, especially when I was so young, hadn't had any experience apart from my architecture degree, and kind of got thrown into, architecture in itself is a male-dominated industry. Going from that to project management was even more so. So I was me amongst a lot of men, and trying to actually figure out who I was along the way. And I didn't see a lot of female role models, which was number one, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. So what I did do was pick up traits and behaviors from my male senior role models. And so I started my career really acting quite masculine. I put on this almost facade to fit in, thinking, well, the guys will respect me if I act more like them, if I even dress more like them. So what was interesting to me was throughout my career is looking at the places I worked, I would find some women and see how did they behave. And a lot of the people I admired were really authentic. And what I mean by that was they owned their femininity. So the way they dressed, they had dresses on, they wore beautiful outfits, they cared about their appearance, they didn't try to look or act like men. And I really, I observed this, and I'm so grateful to those really unique single women out there who stood out from all the other men and owned their true selves. They owned their feminine space, and they were respected for it. And I saw that, and I really, really looked up to that and appreciated and started to weave that into my own persona and develop my own persona from learning from them as well.
How did it make you feel at the point before you looked to some of those role models, some of those stronger women, but how did it make you feel when you were trying to fit in and taking on more of the male persona that you saw around you? What was that like for you?
I think I looked at some of these male leaders as successful individuals, and that's what I was striving for back then. I was striving for success. I wanted to be that successful developer or that successful CEO. And at that point in my life, I thought that's what I want. I love how people respect them. I love the energy they possess. And that's what I want. That's what I thought I wanted. But when I was acting in this way of taking on these male traits, being a bit more masculine, dressing like a man almost, it wasn't really me. And you can say that because how did I act after work? How did I act on the weekends? It was not the same. So it wasn't being my authentic self at all. I was absolutely trying to fit in and not really figuring out for a while, how do I really act as myself, get respected, and fit in at the same time?
Did you feel that as you were going through that time in your life that you were earning the respect of your coworkers, of those around you? So you're looking for success. You wanted to feel a certain way. Were you building good relationships at that point?
I actually was. And interestingly, when once I got a job offer from actually a client I was working for at the time, he approached me and he said, I've been noticing what you've been doing. I would like you to join our firm. So that he was once my client, now he wanted to join me. And it was a huge promotion in what I was doing. And I was probably one of the youngest senior people in that group. And that was kind of the shift for me because he saw something in me that I didn't even know. And I then, from that moment, I really owned it. I changed the way I dressed. I changed the way I acted. I really stepped into the person I wanted to be. And that was like a really big pivot point for me and I think that's so encouraging for, younger listeners who are listening in to understand that, and maybe hopefully even some more senior people who are listening in, when you see something in someone, to pick them out and share that with them, because that encouragement really solidifies hopefully what they see as well and can make the difference in their life for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Such an important point. And I'm curious, what type of projects were you involved in? Give our audience a sense of what you were passionate about, what you enjoyed doing, and some of those key projects?
Yeah, so when I started with this, what I said, the client, I was working for a big financial institution in their real estate division, looking after $100,000 worth of property portfolio. And what that meant was I was in charge of delegating funds to develop properties, and commercial properties. There was a big role that I didn't even understand at the time. I started the job thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm an architect, and now I'm managing multi-million dollars worth property portfolio. But that, so corporate, so not me now, but I'm so glad I did that role because I learned so much. I was really senior, really young. I managed a team. I was in corporate life, so I understood how clients like to see things. I was the client for the first time. And it really gave me such a great insight into so many different aspects, taught me so many different elements of really how to act, how to be, how to have eloquence. It's so many different aspects of that role were pivotal to my next step, which was unbelievable to me. So I had a little stint in Australia of working in New York and for about a year because I thought I love New York and I want some work experience there. So I worked worked with an interior design firm, really on a senior level, helping them with business development, being the client liaison, and I loved it. But that was just at the point of the 2008, 2009 crash, right? So it was a bit crazy in New York. If you were anywhere in New York around that time, it was a crazy, crazy time. But during that time, I made some incredible connections that I had no idea would lead me to my next role, which was then to be what was called the owner's rep for the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York. So I got this email from someone who I'd met in New York who'd said, I loved working with you and I think you would be perfect for this job. I was living in Australia. I was back in Australia at the time. They could have selected anyone from the States, but they brought me all the way over from Australia and I was blown away. So it just goes to show when you're in a job that you don't like, still, act as you love it and be your authentic self to the people around you and never burn any bridges because you never know when someone's going to call you out of the blue and ask you to work on a dream project like that. So that was one of my incredible dream projects where I got to work with this, the star architect that runs a piano and the amazing team at the Whitney Museum. And that, launched kind of the next part of my life, which I got known as the arts and culture and hospitality go-to person in New York. It led me to work with amazing restaurateurs like Danny Meyer, amazing jobs like in Hudson Yards, and all over experience was just such an amazing 6 years of my life in New York.
It is amazing. And, you shared some very valuable lessons there. One of those is about connections and about building your network and surrounding yourself with just fantastic people. And I'd love it if you would share something with our audience about your ability to connect with others. Were you intentional about building those relationships? Were you at that point going to, whether it was networking events or just kind of building your community around you? Give us a sense of what that was like.
Well, I look back on that time and I don't think I was out there to network, but I did love doing it. So I think that's a key part of networking is really enjoying speaking to other people and a bit of a thrill. Back in the old days when we weren't virtual everything, when we were going to events and we were meeting new people, is a bit of the thrill of going into a room where you know no one and figuring out who to speak to and who you need to be connected to. It's a skill, and it's so, so vital to success in any field. I can't emphasize that enough. I think my network, if I hadn't developed my network way back then, I wouldn't have got to the places I have today. And I mean, network over everything. They say like network, net worth. And I honestly really believe that. As I said about this position in New York with the Whitney Museum, they could have picked anyone in New York, but they got me all the way from Australia to come over, move my life, come over and work there because of the relationship I had with the decision makers. And now I'm able to say that some of these incredible clients, the Whitney Museum, Danny Meyer, all these incredible individuals, I feel comfortable enough to be able to reach out on a personal email and touch base and ask for something or ask for a testimonial. And it feels completely normal. It doesn't feel like I'm doing something really out there on a limb. And that for me is an incredible feeling, to have such an amazing network within reach. And I always think about that for future. You never know, the person sitting next to you on the airplane could be, someone you might end up doing business with. So always be nice to everyone, whether you're standing in a line or on a bus or on the flight. You never know who that person is.
That's exactly right. Great advice. There's a saying that actually came from Harvey Mackay, who is a well-known author. And the saying is, dig your well before you're thirsty. Mm-hmm. And that applies to networking. Build your relationships early. The earlier you can start, the better off you'll be. And always come from a place of giving, a place of serving first. And reciprocity has a way of showing itself over time. But look for ways to help others. Look for ways to connect people together. Look for ways to match people who could potentially develop some extraordinary product or service together. And when you do that, amazing things start to happen for you.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's nothing more I love than figuring out who to matchmake when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships. I mean, to me, it's like pure joy, because if I've got this network, what is the point of holding on to it, right? It's like hoarding. There's no point in having it unless you can share it with people and make the most of it. And I think that's quite a New York way of thinking. I don't know if it's so similar in places like London. I think people actually hold their connections quite close to their chest. I think it does depend on where you are. But for me personally, I love to be able to share and help someone who needs a connection, for sure.
Yeah, beautiful. So, as you were sharing some of your early story and getting into positions of leadership early on in your career, it took me back to some of my own experiences and entering the corporate world fairly early and moving quickly up the leadership ranks. And one of the first things that comes to mind are some of the ways that I failed in whether it was communication, failing on a project, failing to do the things that I just wasn't ready for yet, but I was provided an opportunity, and I grew through those experiences. I grew through those failures, and they were absolutely necessary for me to go through. Are there any particular moments of failure that you can think through as you look back over your career so far, and things that you learned through those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first one I would say is managing a team. When the first time I got to manage a team, I wasn't shown, well, this is what you do. I wasn't trained. You just kind of get thrown into it and you say, manage these 10 people and then manage the 20 people under them. And I think I really got thrown in the deep end, and I just had to learn. And I don't think I did a very good job at first. I think I was maybe over demanding, not sensitive enough, and could have been more empathetic, could have been thought of it more as community. How can we work together instead of I'm the boss? You guys work for me, that kind of attitude when you're really young and get thrown into a senior position. And, I think you think you're pretty cool. I think that was kind of the first thing. And, people started to notice. So I kind of got put back in line. I did learn, and now have obviously so much more when I'm managing a team of patience and understanding, and so obviously so much better for it right now. I think the other thing is, I wouldn't say it's failure, but it was more of an unknown. And I come back to, I think, conflicts in business or in workplace or, in the boardroom, when you're at heads with someone, what to do, what not to do. And everyone's going to be different, right? But it's the way that you react to that person that you have control of. So instead of, if someone gets fiery over something and they start shouting at you about something, the only thing you have control of is yourself and how you act in that moment. So it's either you say, sorry, I can't have you talk to me like that and step out the room, or you just say, could we just talk about this another time? And you don't know how to deal with things in the moment until you've had that experience. So even if you've done it once before and you try it again a different time, it could still blow up in your face, because the person opposite you is going to be a different person and they're going to react differently. But again, I always think, be the better person, take things down a notch if you can, and, really be able to control your emotions in a heated situation, I think, is key.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that one. That's an area that I continually work on. So to that point, what are some of the strategies or tools that you use to be able to manage your own emotional responses, to be able to give yourself a bit of space there so you can respond as opposed to being pulled into a reaction?
I actually think the first thing to do is, before you even get into a meeting or a scenario, even if you're talking about walking through the office doors, we talk about, I feel like it's back in the old days when we walked into the office doors. Stop before you even get in there and visualize your day working out perfectly. Go into the office not being rushed, carrying 14 bags and things, and just dropped my kid at school and I'm flustered. Take 5 seconds before you walk through those doors and imagine having a good day. Take that deep breath and then walk through the door. And you will notice a difference in yourself and in others when you feel calm walking into a room, walking into an important meeting with that type of energy. And the second thing, I always start my day with meditation. So even before I walk through the door of the office or into a meeting, I've spent the morning 15 minutes meditating, just calming the mind. Everyone does it in a different way. My process is through breathing, slowing down the breath, trying to clear the mind, not think of anything important, not think of anything in the future and the past, just making space. And so you make this space for clarity, you make space for creativity, and you'll be amazed when your mind's not cluttered with a million things to do, how many great ideas can come to you first thing in the morning. So those are my two, before you even get into the meeting and through the door or whatever, is my two top tools that I love to share that help me every day, every day.
Powerful. Truly is. And I would share with you that I employ both of those tools in my own life, and those are part of my morning routine. And what I found that the the meditation practice that I use, it has allowed me to create just that small amount of space that when a situation comes up, which something always comes up, whether it's a car cutting me off or someone makes a negative comment or I'm pulled into a political conversation for some reason, it just allows me to create that small amount of space to breathe and to really activate more of the rational part of my brain versus the emotional part where I immediately would get pulled into something. And so I completely agree with you. It really has been a game changer, but I want to make sure that I'm emphasizing here that it is a practice. So it's not something that, if we do it for a week or 2 weeks, that's it, that we're good. It's something that I do every day, and it sounds like it's part of a daily practice for you as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I notice when I haven't done it, there will be small things during the day where I'm like, why did that happen? That's strange. Usually something like that wouldn't happen. And then, maybe I missed a day. But these are tools I've used for many, many years. And, I adapt as I grow and I learn new things and learn from new people. If I don't do, these are my life tools. So I 100% make my life better. And I notice, I think probably since COVID, when you have more time, and I say that, I know lots of people are still, busy all day, but you're not in the office, so you're not constrained by physical space. If something upsets you or happens, something negative during the day, take 5 minutes at that point and go and breathe somewhere quiet and just notice how much more control you have over the rest of your day. So I even practiced this just yesterday. Something negative happened and I'm like, God, I'm feeling like I'm getting into a bad mood. And instead of diving deeper into that bad mood, I stopped, I reset, and I came back into it, and things changed. Honestly, the whole situation changed. So I really, really emphasize stepping out of, I think number one is being aware of that moment. What is happening around you? Is it a negative space? Is someone being negative to you? Whatever you feel is happening at the moment, try and be aware of it. And if it's not filling you with joy and if you're not feeling great about it, go and step away and breathe and come back. It works every time.
Great piece of advice. So what are some words that you would use to describe yourself?
Oh, I would say number one, motivated. I think that you mentioned my motivational accelerator course, which is my private coaching. I think I am so motivated, and that encapsulates so many different aspects of my life. But I'm motivated, I'm driven, I'm passionate, I'm trying to think, I'm kind and I'm considerate, I hope. And I like to, also have fun and laugh. So I think that's really important parts of, again, being your authentic self, is noticing, do you laugh every day? Do you have fun when you're doing your day-to-day tasks, or does it feel like a chore? Do you feel passionate about what you're doing? And of course, we're not going to feel passionate 24/7, but I think on the whole, if you're feeling you are on your path, these are the type of qualities that do come up, and that's essentially how I would describe myself.
Perfect. And what does fulfillment mean to you? How do you define that?
It's a feeling of satisfaction, a feeling of, when I say satisfaction, is this, there's always more. We can always aspire to more. And it's not about settling. It's about feeling satisfied and yet still having more goals to achieve. So there's a feeling of relief, a feeling of being present and being happy with that moment. And I think, feeling fulfilled is really, there's a sense of gratitude about current scenario, and there's also this excitement for what's to come. So for me, I think feeling fulfilled is really about that moment, where hopefully that moment's more than just a couple of seconds, is this feeling like, you know what, my life's pretty good. I've got problems. Yes, everyone does. Things come up all the time, but I like where this is headed, and I'm feeling good about where this is headed. So that for me is fulfillment.
Very good. So I want to talk about designing a life or creating a life by design. And the first time that we met, when I was doing some research on you, just learning about who you are, the types of things that you do, the businesses that you've created and co-founded, and the way that you are able to do all of this remotely and travel and have incredible experiences. What a beautiful way to structure your life. And I would love it if you would share with our audience some of what you're doing. What has been most important to you? What's most critical when it comes to designing your life and being intentional about that?
Absolutely. I think it's something we spoke about, that I said, I set out, I've been working for corporate companies for so many years. And when I finally went out on my own, I decided, well, what is it that I want to do? What's not just what am I good at? So how does this fit into my dream life? And so the first thing is understanding, what is that vision? What do you want your life to look like? And a lot of people haven't actually stopped to take the time to think, well, actually, next year I'd like it to look like this. And in 5 years, I'd like it to look like this. And it's not about creating a 5-year business plan. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this vision. And so when you know that vision, then you can figure out the steps to get there. And for me, it was so important. I've just always felt a need to travel. I felt very nomadic. I've lived in 5 different countries, and even more cities. And I've lived away from, I grew up in Australia, and I've lived away from Australia now for almost 10 years. So where is home? For me, there wasn't this desire, like I think a lot of people, to have home. For me, what was really important was to feel more freedom. For me, it was really important to be able to explore the world, to see other places, to live in different places, to have that experience. And it's not to say I don't want a home. Of course, I love my home and I have a home. But it was about creating something different. It was about saying, well, for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe we try London, which we now live in. And I've lived in New York for 6 years, and prior to that, Australia. So for me, it was a sense of what feels right for me right now, or where feels right for me right now. So it was very important to design my business around that idea of, I want to be able to live anywhere and still be able to do the work that I love to do. And that was, an interesting evolution. And that's why I think a huge part of why I love the coaching is because I can work from wherever, especially after COVID. It just demonstrated to us that I'm an advisor, I'm a coach, I'm so many different things, and that all works because I set this intention of creating these things that I do remotely. So that's how it came to be. And I think of, I have a sister who lives at home in Australia with 2 kids and the house and the dog and the husband and and that's very much her personality, being a mother and staying at home, and that's what she loves to do. So again, it really depends on what is your intention and what is your vision for your life, and go out and take the steps to make that happen. That is what designing your life is.
Wonderful. And what are your non-negotiables in life? What will you absolutely say no to and not do so you can continue to live the life that you live?
Oh, a non-negotiable. That's tricky, but I think for right now, it would be to take a client or a project on that took me to a destination I just didn't want to stay in for whatever reason. I think I'm still open to being, traveling to more places and being in different destinations. And I love the idea of, a project or a client taking me somewhere else. I think that's the fluidity of my life. But I think if it was, somewhere I just didn't want to be, that would be a non-negotiable.
All right. And what is something that would surprise us to learn about you? I mean, I've looked at your various social channels. I've watched videos that you've put out. By the way, you're an excellent photographer. And I love the content. So you've curated things very nicely. What would surprise us?
Yeah, I don't talk about this a lot, but I do like to dip into it, is about spirituality. So we spoke about this previously, but I'm Jewish by religion. I wouldn't say I'm religious, but I do love the tradition and the spiritual elements of the religion. And I really like learning about Kabbalah. And to me, that really works in with my my kind of self-education on topics such as law of attraction and these type of tools that I've learned and used, and knowledge that I've developed over the last few years. It makes so much sense when I also have the history of Kabbalah and Judaism behind that. It really has so many so many similarities that for me, it's kind of a really interesting side of the religion. And I even have a spiritual coach who I speak to monthly, and I absolutely love it because sometimes things pop up in our life and we do want an explanation. We're like, why did that happen? And I love hearing the spiritual explanation of certain things. And to me, that's somewhat of a kind of a reassuring and knowingness and knowledge. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's, as we had spoken before in my own journey, as I look back, I realized that had I even attempted to go down the spiritual path that I'm on right now and try to discover and educate myself on the things that I'm learning today, had I tried to do that before, I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those areas where I believe, and I'm sure you've heard this before, that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I might be butchering that saying, but it's something along those lines. And I feel it is the same when it comes to experiences that we have. We're having them at a very specific time for a very specific reason. And we're ready for these events. We're ready for these opportunities.
Absolutely. And, even going through hard times, you're like, well, why did I have to go through that? And you only learn in hindsight why. And obviously these things, as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger and all of this, but it really does have a message through it, and you do learn from it. And there is a reason for it. And I have to say, like, if I hadn't gone through so many of my life experiences, I don't feel I would be in the position to be able to coach other people to go from feeling that stuck and frustrated to being in there, being empowered and successful. So I think it's all meant to be.
There you go. That's exactly right. So since we're talking about coaching and you provide coaching to powerful women, talk about the importance of having coaches in your life, and why should someone who's listening right now who may not have experience working with a coach, why should they contemplate working with one?
Well, we think about all the supreme athletes in the world. We think Serena Williams, Nadal, they've all got coaches. They're at the top of their game, and yet they still have a coach. So if we are someone who is looking to get to the number one or looking just to get to our goals, by getting a coach, it makes so much sense to find someone who's already done it and get to your goal faster and better and with less mistakes. For me, I found a coach who believed in me, and I loved seeing what he was doing. I actually have a male coach, and and it's interesting that I chose a man over a woman, but I just, it's not about necessarily the sex of your coach. It's about who do you resonate with. And I think that is so important. You have to find a coach who you feel really understands your issue and is in a place where you want to be. So I think that's a really important part. And we hire so many people in our lives. We hire accountants to do our accounts, our tax. We hire people to, personal assistants to help us with various things. Why shouldn't we hire someone to get us to our goals? And that for me is having someone in your life to support you and show you all the tools and the tricks without complicating things, with making it feel manageable. I think a lot of people right now, because of COVID, everyone's putting out an online course to do, and that's great. I did those too. I love them. But I also have a monthly session with the coach and then weekly sessions with the coach, 2 different coaches for different things. And without that touch point, I just wouldn't be where I am today. I just, again, that touch point, that one-on-one, it's great, a template to kind of get you understanding a topic. But for someone to dig deep into help your personal situation, there's nothing better than having that one-on-one time. It really is. It was a game changer for me. And I've already seen it in my clients being instantly changing for them too.
Well, that's great insight, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I just want to shine a light on something that you said that's incredibly important for those that are listening and watching. And that is to make sure that you are working with a coach or looking for a coach that aligns with you, that aligns with your values, someone who you can connect with. Because when we work with a coach, we're working very closely with this individual, and we want to make sure that it's someone that we enjoy spending time with, someone that can challenge us, someone that can push us, someone that can help us grow, but someone that we resonate with. That piece has to be there. And I've seen too many people in the past that have decided to work with a coach because they saw something on social media that made them sound fantastic and someone who could deliver results. But once they started working with them, they realized that there wasn't a good connection. So at the end of the day, do your homework, do your research, and interview a coach before you decide to move forward.
100%. I mean, I will always jump on a call with my potential clients before. I think for me, it's also important to know that I'm the right person for them. So it's a meet and greet. It's not a are they right? Am I right for them? It's also, are they right for me? Because honestly, if I don't think that they're right for me, I will refer them to someone else. I'd much rather that they learn from someone, even if it's not me. And I think it's really important for us both to have the right energy. And people are feeling like they were meant for something more, but just don't know what it is, or they know what it is and just don't know how to get there. I would say 100% reach out to someone who's done it and can help.
Absolutely. So as you look at your life as you have it designed today with the various businesses that you're involved in, what is the biggest challenge that you face in your businesses today, and what specific actions are you taking to overcome them?
Well, one of the things that was interesting during COVID for me is I'm an advisor and still am an advisor for a lot of what I call cultural projects. So that's museums, hospitality groups, hotel groups, and that was all on hold for the best part of the year. So of 2020. So having to re-navigate that space and see how else can I help in this space was so vital for me. Is not to just sit there and go, oh, well, restaurants are closed and hotels are closed and museums are closed, so I guess I've got nothing to do. It was really about who are the leaders in this space doing something interesting that I can help with, that I can get involved, that I can add value to. That's really they can lean on my experience and I can help them with what they're trying to do. And this is where evolution happens in these challenging times. Everyone says, like Airbnb and Uber and all of these great brands that we now know all developed in that 2008, 2009 crash, right? And so the great brands of tomorrow happened during COVID. And so it's really about leaning on that network again and seeing how can I add value and keep, reaching out, touching base, not giving up. It absolutely was a challenging time for a lot of people to re-navigate, and everyone likes to use the word pivot. But I think it was an opportunity for some of us, like myself, to say, what skills can I work on to better myself, to be of more value? What can I be of more value to my new clients or my coaching clients, and jump onto those courses myself so that I had more knowledge after COVID. And now this year, for sure, if I hadn't done the work during 2020, I would be way behind for where I am now. That is for sure.
Powerful. I love that. What a great mindset. What a great way of looking at creating opportunities, building your skill sets, and looking at what can I do? What can I do to add more value? What can I do to bring more to my clients, to create new solutions, to create new opportunities for others? Just a fantastic way of looking at the world. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
What are you most proud of?
I am most proud of all my businesses. I'm proud of, I feel like I've been entrepreneurial for a long time, even though I've been in the corporate world. I wrote a book when I was in my early 20s, and I created this before Instagram, and so I'm making myself sound old, but all of these things that would have been so amazing to do now, I did them but that technology could explode a brand, and I just did it anyway. I think I've kind of jumped on the thing I've wanted to do without fearing it. without going, I don't know how to do this. So I kind of just say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to start by doing, step one. Okay, what is my service? Or what is my value? Okay, let's create a website around that. Okay, that's kind of number one. Okay, now I've got that. Now how do I brand myself? And I just take it literally step by step. And actually, someone just said to me the other day, wow, you've got a lot on your plate. Like, how do you get through it? How do you kind of manage it all? And I just say, just take it day by day. Because honestly, that is all we can do. Yes, we can have plans and we can have the grand vision, and that's perfectly okay. But when it does feel overwhelming, you just have to plan your day. Make sure that you're prioritizing the things, number one, that are going to make you money, so you're good, and things that you're passionate about. So if you're doing those two things, then you know that you're in the right place, and that taking it day by day in the best possible way. So yeah, I think I'm most proud of my businesses, and still love doing them.
Wonderful. You said something that I know is going to connect with a lot of people. And it's also one that I think is a very valuable lesson. And it is this, that you decided you were going to do something, that you were going to move forward with an idea or with something specific, even though you didn't have all the answers, even though you didn't know exactly how you were going to do it, but you did it anyway. You took those first steps. And that right there is one of the most valuable lessons that we can learn, is take action. Do it. Get out there and do the thing that you want to do. And will you have everything figured out from day one? Absolutely not. But don't allow that fear or the fact that you don't have everything that you need today in place to do it. Don't let that stop you.
Couldn't agree more. And I didn't even know I was doing it, but my coach told me this, is take imperfect action over inaction. And I think I've just been naturally doing that anyway. I've created businesses, they haven't worked out, I've done them anyway. I move on to the next thing. The thought of not doing something that's in your mind that you really want to do will torment you for the rest of your life. When you see someone else's product on that shelf and that could have been yours, like, I had that idea, I should have done that. That's the worst feeling. So for me, I would much rather do it and get it out there and refine it over and over again until it is where it needs to be, than just not do it at all. So take baby steps, call the people around you that can help you. Don't feel you have to do it all yourself. You never can do it all yourself. Really lean on the network, lean on your friends, ask people how they did it, join, chat groups, whatever you can do to make that happen, and it becomes easier. And get a coach.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better. So tell us very briefly, where did the name Princess with a Backpack come from?
This was when I finished architecture school. I decided I was totally burnt out, and I went, like all Australians do, they go to Europe for weeks on end and just go backpacking. And I never thought I was that person. By this stage in my life, I was out of that masculine phase. I was in my feminine phase. I liked wearing heels on a Saturday night. I liked dressing up. I was not a backpacker, but I did want to go to Europe. I didn't want to work. I just wanted to explore. It was the first time in my life I'd really had time. So my whole life was just, going to school, then school holidays, then, finishing high school, then going straight into university. So there was no path of, there's no idea of freedom. There was none of that. There was I was very determined my whole teenage life and into my early 20s, very determined to get it done. And so once it was done, as in I had my architecture degree. I'm like, oh, whoa, I've got time, I've got freedom, what can I do? I've had a side summer job, I've earned some money, I could go exploring. So essentially I went to Europe, which was meant to be for maybe 6 weeks and ended up being 7 months. And I just didn't come home. I was just loving it too much. And my parents were kind of begging, okay, it's time to come home now. Come on, come back. And I thought, I'd met these incredible women along the way and made some great friendships. But I saw all of them, they were carrying suitcases or they were carrying a backpack and then like an extra bag for all their hair products. And I was like, I've learned so much since I've started 7 months ago. I need to write a book on how to basically be stylish while backpacking. So while I was sitting, I have this in the book, but while I was sitting in this tiny little Paris airport on my way back to Australia, it wasn't Charles de Gaulle, it was this tiny little airport. I had the night basically to sketch some ideas down, and I was writing this, I had a notebook during my trip. So I was used to writing about my experiences and when I was in Italy and when I was in Greece. And so I had a diary, essentially, of a journal of my time there. And on the last night before heading back, I'm like, I got to put this into a book. This would be so good. And so I came up with the idea in that night of Princess with a Backpack. So that's how that was born.
And, what a great story. I love that.
So I do have my skills in my backpack, yes.
That doesn't surprise me. So of all the places that you've been, all the places that you've visited to date, do you have a favorite city, a favorite destination? And if so, what is it?
It's hard to pick one. I have a couple. I think Greece is my favorite in the Mediterranean. Is like the Greek islands are just, they never get old. It's always spectacular. Absolutely love the architecture. I love the lifestyle. I love the food. I love everything about Greek culture. For cities, absolutely, I can't get away from New York and Paris. They're my, love those cities. Sydney as well is amazing. And then kind of, for me, the more out there experience I had was in Vietnam, where I went solo around Vietnam as well. And I can't believe I even did that. Thinking about it, I had no idea what I was walking into, but, from a cultural perspective was really mind-blowing. It was especially starting in Hanoi, which has a fusion of Vietnamese and French, and it felt, like a really wild experience. I mean, for me, that was really a phenomenal, life-changing experience.
Well, you and we'll have to schedule round 2 of this conversation because I'd love to learn more about your. Absolutely. So what overarching message would you like to leave our audience with?
Sure. Really, I want everyone to take the time to think about what their priority in their life is and what is it for them, not what is it for the other people in your life, but for yourself. So you might have a family, you might have a husband, you might have many things going on, but what is it without all of that? What is it for you? What do you want to achieve? And if you've decided what that is, then make a way to get to that. Don't leave it till one day. Do it today. If you haven't figured out what that one step is, then start to speak to people, have conversations with new people, ask to have a call with coaches or mentors or whoever it is that you can reach out to, and take the time to create that vision, because that vision is so good and you were meant for that vision. So I hope that is on that last note that people really do take their time out to figure out what that is and make a plan to get there.
Wonderfully said. And before I ask my final question to you, please share with us where we can connect with you and view your content, see your amazing photos, and learn about all the great things that you're doing.
Amazing. Yes. Obviously on LinkedIn under Lauren Resnick. And on Instagram, you can find me at Princess with a Backpack. And you can always head to, I have got various websites, but you can head to lrnprojects.com where you'll find out all about my career and my coaching and many other things. So love to chat with anyone listening. If you have any questions, feel free to DM, email, whatever way to message me. I would love to speak to you.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that we put all of those links in the show notes. And here is my final question to you. So, what is one of the greatest gifts that life has given you that you didn't realize at the time?
Ooh. Well, life gave me, I want to say my husband, because at the time I didn't know he was going to be my husband, and he's my number one supporter, my number one cheerleader. And, he is so encouraging. And it doesn't mean I don't want to put any kind of stigma on you have to have a man to, be successful, anything like that. But it is nice to have someone who is your supporter, who's your number one fan, who's cheering you on along the way. And, when we met, I had no idea he was going to be my husband. So that's what life gave me.
All right. That's a great one. I'm sure you remind him of that regularly.
Yes.
Terrific. Well, Lauren, thank you so very much for joining us today on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I truly appreciate it. I'm grateful for you. And I'm so glad that we were introduced and that you are a part of my life today. And I look forward to seeing where this relationship will continue to develop. And thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay. I absolutely love being here. I really, really appreciate it.
Certainly. My pleasure. And for all of you, thank you so much for watching and listening. And please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We would love it if you would share one or two key takeaways from this particular episode. And whatever you share, we'll make sure that Lauren receives that feedback as well. And to enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help your business create a solid foundation and achieve the results and success you deserve, all you've got to do is visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning and growing, and we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear. Jay Shear.
Business Consultant.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.